Other than One Punch Man's main plot, there are also some fun side stories. These extra stories talk about the everyday things that happen around Saitama. We can learn where Saitama's fighting suit come from and why an S-class hero Zombie Man is killed. Today, let's dive into these side stories together. A lizard monster who has stolen lots of DVDs is trying to escape as fast as it can. It suddenly hits a dead end. The man pursuing from the rooftop is none other than Saitama, who at this time still has thick black hair. Saitama jumps from the roof, unfortunately tearing his pants, revealing a pair of unique pink underwear. The monster starts laughing at the sight, only to be knocked out by a single punch from Saitama. Saitama, with his damaged clothes, stands in front of a fabric store. Inside, the owner is pleading with a man named Jack for more time to pay his debts. Jack tells the owner he'll be back tomorrow and leaves, passing Saitama on his way out. Saitama, a famously poor hero, often damages his clothes in fights and doesn't have enough money for repairs. Luckily, the kind-hearted fabric store owner usually helps him mend his clothes for free. The owner suggests using a special fabric he's got to make a durable hero suit for Saitama, showing him the design sketch. Saitama finds the design terrible and makes an excuse, saying he isn't strong enough to need a hero suit yet, and leaves. Before he leaves, the owner warns Saitama about increasing crime in the area and many businesses are closing. Elsewhere, in a luxurious room, Jack reports to his boss. It turns out that the reason many shops are closing is because of their underhanded tactics. They let out thieves and hooligans to disrupt the peace, affecting businesses and giving out high-interest loans to these shops. As a result, many shops go bankrupt, and their assets seized by the boss. At night, Saitama is digging into his butt while watching TV. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. It's his landlady. Saitama hasn't paid his rent for 3 months, and the landlady threatens to kick him out if he doesn't pay soon. The next day, Saitama visits the fabric store to collect his repaired clothes. During their chat, the owner reveals he's closing his store. Before Saitama can ask why, Jack arrives, arrogantly taking the owner's property deed. The owner had borrowed money from a high-interest loan company, the same one ruining many businesses. They won't spare his shop either. Saitama asks why the police can't help. The owner explains that the police are scared as the loan company is housed in a fearsome apartment building known for criminal activities. Saitama decides to help the owner by confronting the loan company. Following the owner's directions, Saitama arrives at the feared apartment building. To his surprise, it's the same building he lives in. No wonder the rent was so cheap. Not knowing which apartment is the loan company, he starts knocking on doors. As the first door opens, his landlady emerges, startling Saitama into hiding. The second door reveals a man dressed in a pink dress, clutching a doll. The third door opens to a pair of brothers. Saitama mentions that he's a hero. The brothers panic, thinking Saitama is there to bust their counterfeit money operation for the reward money. Hearing about a reward, Saitama gets excited. So, to earn the reward money for his rent, he beats up the brothers. The boss's man sees the beaten brothers being dragged upstairs by Saitama. At that moment, Saitama knocks on a fourth door. After quickly confirming that this tenant is also a criminal, he promptly takes him down and drags him out as well. Sensing something is wrong, the boss's man quickly reports the situation to his boss. Soon, there's a knock on the boss's door. It's Saitama who steps in. Saitama wants the owner's property deed back. Otherwise, he won't have anyone to fix his clothes in the future. The boss, misunderstanding, thinks Saitama is here to take the property deed by force. Saitama, however, has no intention of resorting to force. Instead, he starts explaining the law. He says the owner had actually repaid his debt if you consider the legal interest rate, and any repayment beyond this is considered overpayment. So, they should return the excess payment to the owner. Also, there is no legal basis to randomly take someone's property deeds. The boss becomes furious at Saitama's legal lesson and reveals his true form as a fish monster. Meanwhile, the fabric store owner gets inspired for a new clothing design while thinking about Saitama promising to retrieve his property deed. He gets to work on his sewing machine. The boss, now a monster, is insulted when Saitama says he's ugly after the transformation. He insists he's very cute and attacks Saitama with his whip in rapid succession. When Saitama catches his whip, the monster spews out eggs from his mouth to attack. This forces Saitama to let go of the whip, retreating and crouching on the ground. Looking at Saitama's torn clothes, the monster boasts that his title of A-class criminal is well earned. Saitama's eyes light up when he hears A-class. That's a lot of money. The scene fades to black. The landlady opens the door to find Saitama with a bunch of captured criminals, intending to use them to pay his rent. But the landlady is furious. Those were her tenants. her source of income. She's mad at Saitama for ruining her rent collection and kicks him out. The fabric store owner suggests Saitama move to City Z. There's a poorly secured, uninhabited area in the suburbs of City Z. It's very cheap because no one lives there anymore. The owner thanks Saitama for getting his property deed back, and Saitama promises to continue seeking his help in the future. But the owner tells him that he's closing the shop anyway because he's too old to continue. He presents Saitama with a new outfit that he just finished making. The owner takes off his wig to reveal his own bald head. He has been waiting for the right opportunity to retire, and now it has arrived. The suit he made for Saitama is his final work, and his life's pride and joy. Seeing the new outfit, Saitama is overjoyed. He puts on the belt, gloves, boots, and cape and becomes the hero we all know. And that's it for this episode. Ever since Saitama beat Mosquito Girl with one punch, the cyborg Genos is in awe of Saitama's strength. At this point, he's not Saitama's student yet. He's just following Saitama every day, curious about the secret of his strength. One day Saitama is home, doing his laundry, feeling like he's being watched. Suddenly, he spots a shadow zipping past, but when he turns there's no one there. Unbeknownst to him, Genos is observing him from a distant rooftop, still hoping to unlock Saitama's power secret, but has had no luck so far. One day Saitama leaves his house, and Genos secretly follows him. When Saitama enters a restaurant, Genos gets excited, thinking that maybe Saitama's strength has something to do with food. Inside the restaurant, the waiter enthusiastically recommends a new steak, but the poor hero looks at his wallet and orders a portion of fries instead. When the fries arrive, Saitama is stunned. 300 yen for these? The worst part is, there's only one of the extra long fries he loves. The rest are short and overcooked. Genos, observing from afar, sees this as an opportunity. While Saitama is in the bathroom, he swipes the long fry for Dr. Casino to examine. He wants to know if there's any secret inside this ordinary-looking fry. Saitama returns to find his longest fry missing and suspects that a stalker has stolen his fry. He decides to wait around a corner to catch the stalker, but no one shows up. Meanwhile, Genos, watching from a distance, thinks Saitama is doing some special power training. Then Dr. Casino calls to tell him the results of the fry analysis are ready. Saitama, who hasn't caught anyone, is feeling frustrated. On his way home, he encounters a B-class criminal named Men's Esthetician Man, who is spitting saliva at people, causing their faces to dry up. Recognizing Saitama's bald head, the monster tells him that Saitama defeated him 6 months ago, leaving his face dry and rough. Hence, he's been applying face masks like crazy to regain his smooth skin. And now, with his increased powers and his transformation into a monster, he's causing chaos just to get Saitama's attention and get his revenge. Saitama thinks this monster is the fry thief, and he furiously punches him into a wall, warning him that face-to-face combat is okay, but sneaky action like stealing his fries is not acceptable. Back in the lab, Genos gets the fry analysis report. It's just an ordinary fry. So what really is the secret to Saitama's strength? As Saitama walks home, he starts to feel calm. He figures maybe being hated is an unavoidable part of being a hero, but from another perspective, there must be people who appreciate him. After being a hero for 3 years, even if he doesn't have any fans, someone must have noticed his efforts. The next day, Genos arrives at Saitama's apartment, ready to learn as his student. And that's it for this episode. After Genos becomes Saitama's student, one day he helps a silver-haired man on the street. In the process, Genos' key falls out. This silver-haired man is an enemy of a gang boss. The boss takes Genos' keys and starts questioning him about his relationship with the silver-haired man. Despite Genos explaining that he only helps the silver-haired man out of courtesy and has no other connection, the boss remains unconvinced. He tells Genos that he can get his keys back if he tells the truth. With no other choice, Genos starts from the beginning. In the morning, he and Saitama are having a discussion in the bath about why people say "ah" instead of "ee," "oh," or "woo" when they enter a hot bath. In the end, Saitama feels that replacing "ah" with "fa" works just as well, while Genos keeps correcting Saitama's pronunciation of "fa." After the bath, Saitama sits in a massage chair and gives Genos his key, decorated with a deer charm. He asks Genos to take the key home first and reminds him not to lose it. Genos tells the gang boss that he will stop at nothing for Saitama's keys. This piques the boss's interest, as he starts wondering why Saitama is so important to Genos. Genos continues his story. He insists on waiting for Saitama to finish his massage before they head home together. On their way, they see a supermarket, and Saitama decides they are having hot pot for dinner. But what ingredients should they prepare? As they're pondering this, Saitama is shocked to remember a chicken leg sale that he had forgotten. Genos suggests that if they split up, they could grab the ingredients before the sale ends. The gang boss interrupts him, annoyed by the triviality of the story. Genos asks him to be patient, assuring him that he's about to get to the main point. According to Saitama's plan, Genos is supposed to go to 2 supermarkets to shop. However, as he is about to leave, he encounters a monster and decides to eliminate the threat. After doing so, he misses the supermarket sale by just 2 seconds. Despite pleading with the store clerk to let him buy the chicken legs, he is unsuccessful. The gang boss, infuriated by the pointless chatter, demands that Genos reveal his relationship with the silver-haired man. Genos, remaining calm, continues his story. By the time he reaches the second supermarket, it is already closed. The silver-haired man, who is avoiding the gang, passes by. He explains that the gang has driven away all nearby businesses. Before he can finish his sentence, he suddenly collapses in pain. Genos reaches out to help him, and Genos's key slips out of his hand. The gang boss appears just at this moment, which leads to their current situation. Now that the story is over, he asks for his keys back. The boss, however, pulls out a gun and reveals himself as a C-class criminal. He and his henchmen shoot a barrage of bullets at Genos. They try to hurt him, but Genos is made of steel, so the bullets just bounce off him like a light rain shower. Then, Genos uses his special incineration cannons and the boss pops like popcorn. Genos returns home and explains what has happened, returning the key to Saitama. But Saitama doesn't care because he has a spare set of keys and is only upset that they haven't managed to buy anything. However, to apologize, Genos specifically buys some expensive high-quality beef. That night, Saitama enjoys the best meal he's had. That's it for this episode. This one's called The Ninja Who Is Too Complicated. Ever since Saitama hit Sonic in the crotch, Sonic's been having nightmares about it. He even sees Saitama as a scary black shadow in his dreams, always about to hit him in the same painful spot. These days, he's been spending time with his friend Frank in the forest. When Sonic wakes up from another bad dream, Frank curiously asks him about Saitama, the name he's been screaming out in his sleep. Sonic freezes, realizing that Saitama has become a real fear in his mind. He looks at the carving of Saitama he made in a tree. It's like Saitama's image steps out from the bark and battles him once again, nearly beating him again. In the early morning, Sonic and Frank sit together. Frank feels for Sonic's trouble because he too has an opponent he really wants to defeat. A long time ago, Frank encountered a gigantic bear that left a scar on his arm that never faded. Even though he survived, the fear caused him to be unable to fire a gun. His arm trembles every time he picks one up. Frank tells Sonic that the only way to beat your fear is to face it. Before Frank even finishes his sentence, Sonic has disappeared. He's training hard under a rushing waterfall when he spots a baby boar being chased by a huge snake. Sonic jumps in to help. The snake looks big and scary, but Sonic decides it's a good target to practice on. He darts around the snake at incredible speed. The snake rears its head, and Sonic gets a flash of Saitama's bald head, which frightens him into backing off. He unleashes his wind blade kick, aiming his foot at the snake, but the snake's movement triggers his memory of the painful crotch hit. His attack fails again, and Sonic finally realizes that he must acknowledge his fear to overcome it. He draws his weapon and, after a flurry of blade swings, shatters the giant snake into pieces. Looking down at the piglet by his feet, Sonic thanks it for helping him overcome his fear. At night, he and Frank enjoy snake meat, and Sonic names the boar Eno. In order to defeat Saitama, Sonic starts training non-stop, day and night. As he becomes stronger, he goes back to the tree with Saitama's carving. The image of Saitama emerges once more for a battle. Saitama extends his fist, but Sonic grabs it, forcefully throwing Saitama to the ground. Following up with his wind blade kick, Sonic successfully defeats the image of Saitama. This victory in his imagination fills Sonic with confidence. He says goodbye to Frank and sets off to find Saitama and get his revenge. He reminds Frank that if you give up before a fight, no matter how hard you try, the result will be the same. So, never give up. After Sonic leaves, Frank sunbathes in the forest with the little pig, Eno. Suddenly, a bear appears. Frank quickly raises his gun to aim at it. The bear charges with a mighty roar. Terrified, Frank fires his gun, but because he is so scared, his hands shake, and he misses every shot. All he can do is take Eno and hide in a cabin, shaking all over. However, the bear overturns the cabin. At that moment, Frank remembers Sonic's advice. He decides to muster up the courage to face the bear. He pulls the trigger only to find that he's out of bullets. The next second, he's swatted away by the bear. As Frank awaits death, someone shows up. It's Saitama. To him, the bear is nothing but a yummy dinner. Ino freezes for a second, then recalls that Saitama is the bad guy Sonic carved into the tree and scurries away. The bear is left growling at Saitama, who turns it into a steaming hot pot of bear meat in a split second. After enjoying some beef that Genos bought yesterday, now he's feasting on bear hot pot. Saitama's meals have certainly been lavish these past 2 days. That's it for this episode. Previously, during a dragon-level disaster when a meteorite hit the Earth, Saitama punches it, and the meteorite shatters into pieces. Watching from the sidelines, Bang's eyes widen in disbelief at Saitama's power. He sees such raw talent and wants to take Saitama on as his student. So, he begins to watch Saitama closely, noticing that Saitama spends a lot of time with Genos. He even hears Genos calling him teacher. It puzzles Bang why an S-class hero like Genos would want to learn from a C-class like Saitama. One day, Saitama defeats a cabbage monster. While discussing how to cook the cabbage, Genos suggests buying some meat to go with it. Saitama thinks they don't need to buy meat. A plain cabbage dish with barbecue sauce is delicious and cheap, and it goes great with rice. Genos understands instantly. He asks Saitama if what he really meant was, even the best weapon is useless if the user lacks skill, while even a poor weapon can be strong if used correctly. Saitama is somewhat speechless, as he had just casually made a comment. He wonders how Genos got so much out of it. Bang, hidden in the shadows, watches on with admiration. He marvels at the depth of understanding Saitama and Genos derive from something as simple as a cabbage. He thinks their comprehension far surpasses that of his own student, Shirenko. Bang approaches them, quietly analyzing Saitama's abilities. Saitama notices Bang's silent staring and doesn't know what he's up to. Genos explains that S-class heroes are often quite eccentric, and it's best just to get used to them. As they prepare to walk away, Bang finally speaks up. He asks Saitama who his master is, the one who taught him to become so powerful that he can shatter a meteor with one punch. Questioning Saitama about his training that allows him to shatter meteorites, Saitama simply responds, "I go strong through exercise." Hearing that Saitama doesn't have a master or belong to any school of martial arts leaves Bang even more stunned. He sincerely hands him a business card and invites Saitama to his dojo the next day, promising to show him the beauty of martial arts. Unable to resist Bang's persistent invitation, Saitama agrees to visit the next day, even though he has no plans to actually go. The next day, Saitama, who has stood up Bang, just came out of the supermarket with a bag of meat. Bang, who has been following him secretly, assesses Saitama, who seems to be full of vulnerabilities. Suddenly, a truck loses control and rushes towards the side of the road. A white object darts into the middle of the road. Saitama thinks the white object is a kitten and quickly teleports in front of it to shield it. Genos, fearing his master might get hurt, rushes over and lifts the truck. Saitama then realizes what flew past him was not a kitten, but just a white garbage bag. The meat Saitama just bought is squished by the truck. Once again, Bang is amazed by Saitama's power. He runs out and tells him that there's high-quality meat at his dojo. This finally sparks Saitama's interest. They head to the dojo, where, before the meat is served, Bang insists on demonstrating his tile-splitting technique. Little does he expect that Saitama will shatter the tiles into smithereens. With no other choice, Bang proceeds to the next stage of the competition, a game of poker. Shirenko will read the cards while Bang and Saitama compete to find the called card first. In the first round, Bang easily finds the card. His quick reactions surprise Saitama. In the second round, Saitama punches the ground, causing all the cards to jump into the air, and quickly finds the card. Genos thinks they're competing to see who can make more cards fly into the air, and prepares to blow up the dojo. Bang quickly calls a halt to the game and proposes a final contest, rock, paper, scissors. The winner gets to attack with a soft hammer, and the loser has to block with a helmet. The challenge is to see who's faster. Although Saitama has the most powerful punch in the world, his rock, paper, scissors skill is somewhat lacking. He loses round after round and gets hit each time. His shiny bald head is getting red. Finally, he manages to win a round and gets his chance to attack. As soon as Bang sees him winning, he quickly puts on the helmet. When he looks at Saitama, he feels a terrifying force and hastily dodges Saitama's hammer, narrowly saving his life. After these exercises, Bang asks Saitama if he now appreciates the charm of martial arts and invites him to learn at his dojo. Saitama immediately refuses, but he does want to play that game again. Bang feels a chill in his heart. It looks like recruiting him as a student won't be as easy as he thought. That's it for this episode. On a gloomy, rainy day, a lobster monster is surrounded by Fubuki's faction. A girl charges at the monster, wanting to battle it all by herself, but the lobster monster spits out a venom, almost disfiguring her. Luckily, Fubuki arrives just in time and easily defeats the monster, but it turns out to be disappointing that the newspaper the next day doesn't mention anything about Fubuki's team. The whole page is dominated by the Sea King incident. Her own sister, Tatsumaki, also takes up a spot. The news of Fubuki defeating the lobster monster doesn't make it to the paper. Fubuki leaves feeling frustrated. She hops on a train to Z City, planning to relax a bit. Genos, holding a box of crabs, also boards the train. His seat is diagonally opposite Fubuki. He has heard about Fubuki, the first-ranked B-class hero, who has set up a faction to suppress newcomers. It's strange though, why is she quietly shedding tears? The shaking box catches Fubuki's attention. Genos explains that it contains crabs for a hot pot for his teacher Saitama. Only then does Fubuki realize that the person sitting diagonally opposite her is an S-class hero. Just then, they receive a call from the Hero Association informing them that an A-class criminal has placed a bomb on their train. When the train enters the terminal, the bomb will explode automatically. Genos quickly informs the passengers about the bomb, but the train is moving at high speed, and it's impossible to get off. Genos asks Fubuki to evacuate the passengers, while he tries to stop the train. Fubuki uses her powers to get each passenger off the train. Among them, there's a young girl who's also a hero, though only a C-class one. She insists on being the one to find the bomb. Genos jumps to the front of the train, attempting to stop it, but he finds that the speed limiter on the train has been tampered with, and it can't be stopped. There are only 40 seconds left before they reach the terminal. They have to stop the train from reaching it. Inside the train, after Fubuki sends the last passenger off, the C-class girl finds the bomb. They don't have much time left. Fubuki decisively sends the girl off the train, deciding to wrap the bomb in her psychic powers to suppress the gas expansion. This could minimize the damage, but even she herself isn't sure if she can do it. Suddenly, Genos in front of the train is flung into the air by a powerful force. The train, under the control of a green light, leaves the ground and shoots into the sky, with Fubuki also thrown out of the carriage. The train in the air is being controlled by the green light, changing shape at will. Fubuki realizes that such powerful force could only belong to her sister, Tatsumaki. Tatsumaki controls the train to explode high in the sky. Genos watches in astonishment. Tatsumaki scolds Fubuki for not running away at the first sign of danger. Fubuki turns her head away in discontent. Tatsumaki huffs and leaves. As she walks back, Fubuki feels an overwhelming sense of defeat. Just then, the C-class girl runs over. She thanks Fubuki for saving her. The girl says that she's currently at the bottom of C-class and feels her powers are limited. She was about to give up on being a hero, but seeing Fubuki's gallantry, she regained her courage. She plans to work hard to upgrade to B-class and become a member of Fubuki's group. Hearing these words, Fubuki also feels encouraged. Though she's far behind her sister now, she believes that someday she will prove her strength. On the other side, Saitama is still at home waiting for his crabs that have already been cooked to a crisp in the mid-air explosion. At a spa gathering of the heroes, a shocking murder takes place. The victim is none other than the S-class hero, Zombie Man, and the culprit is among them. The story goes back 2 days before the party. The Hero Association organizes a 2-day spa trip as a reward for the heroes after they defeat the alien Boros. Atomic Samurai and Metalbat start to question why some of the others, who hadn't done much during the battle, were invited. Flashy Flash explains that he was busy dealing with monsters elsewhere. Pig God simply states that he had to go home because he was too hungry, and Watchdog Man declares that he needed to protect his own city. The increasingly annoyed Metal Bat is close to starting a fight with Flashy Flash. On the other hand, the girls are much quieter than the guys in the hot spring. Tatsumaki haughtily proclaims that she alone could have handled the alien invader. At night, the Hero Association organizes a feast. They all enjoy tasty food and fine wine together. However, the next day they wake to find Zombieman's lifeless body. By looking at the scene, they first identify the weapon used in the act. It's Atomic Samurai's blade. Atomic Samurai quickly defends himself, claiming that he left his sword at the party last night and someone must have secretly taken it. Additionally, others can vouch that Atomic Samurai was busy drinking at the time, clearing him of suspicion. Bang then suggests let's consider who would have the motive to kill Zombie Man. Upon hearing about motive, Superalloy Darkshine recalls that Puri Puri prisoner had been eyeing Zombie Man not too long ago. Puri prisoner explains that he just admired Zombie Man and wished Zombie Man was his man. He also insists that he only attacks the most vicious criminals and doesn't kill people. However, due to his frequent imprisonments and low reputation in society, he can't be entirely ruled out as a suspect. Puri prisoner then brings up a clue he has. He recalls overhearing Saitama grinning slyly, asking Zombie Man whether it was true that no matter how hard he got hit, he wouldn't die. Saitama quickly defends himself, saying, "I was just curious because I heard Zombie Man was immortal." Genos jumps to his teacher's defense, stating it couldn't possibly be Master Saitama. If Saitama wanted to kill, he'd only need one punch. But wait, if Saitama was just testing whether Zombie Man was truly immortal, he might have held back and used the weapon. Believing he has figured everything out, Genos quietly tells Saitama, "Don't worry, Master. I will defend you." Saitama is so frustrated by this that he's about to explode. The more Genos talks, the more suspicious Saitama seems to look. Child Emperor starts to piece things together. He points out that Flashy Flash, who has been silently staring at Zombie Man's body, Pig God, who is still eating breakfast, Watchdog Man, who hasn't even gotten out of bed yet, and Metal Bat, who's been unusually quiet since the morning, are all suspicious. Just then, Atomic Samurai suddenly remarks, "Isn't the first person who found the body also pretty suspicious?" That person is none other than King, who's just arrived on the scene. King explains to everyone that when he went to buy a drink from the vending machine last night, he already saw Zombie Man lying on the ground. Child Emperor questions King about what he did last night. King tells them he went back to his room, took a bath, and then fell asleep. Child Emperor, however, finds this odd. He raises the question this inn is known for its open-air baths. Why did King choose to bathe in his room? Unfazed, King retorts that what he does is his own business. The more King speaks, the more suspicious he seems. They even hear King's engine starting up. Just when things are heating up, Tatsumaki suddenly steps in. She declares that since everyone is under suspicion, she might as well restrain them all for now. At this moment, Zombie Man stirs and wakes up. He's known as the man who can't die, even in death. This is because Zombie Man has a remarkable ability. He can heal himself no matter how badly he's hurt. After he regains consciousness, he explains to everyone that he drank too much last night, and all he remembers is a blade suddenly flying towards him. The blade, he recalls, was glowing green. After that, due to his drunkenness, he slept right here all night. Suddenly, everyone's eyes turn to Tatsumaki, the one who is always surrounded by a green glow. Child Emperor asks her about what she was up to last night. Tatsumaki, raising her voice, insists she doesn't remember. However, she knows that Zombie Man can't die. Why on earth would she bother trying to kill him? An act that would be meaningless. Anyway, since Zombie Man is fine, everyone decides to drop it. Child Emperor decide to review the surveillance footage from last night. Sure enough, it was Tatsumaki causing the trouble. She looked incredibly drunk and probably knew Zombie Man couldn't die, so she sent a sword at him for a bit of fun. But why did Tatsumaki drink so much in the first place? That's something only Genos seems to know. In fact, all of this is the result of Saitama's actions. Last night, when Tatsumaki said she didn't want to drink such terrible-tasting alcohol, Saitama snatched it away. He told her that as a kid, she shouldn't mimic adults by drinking alcohol and should stick to orange juice instead. This hurt Tatsumaki's pride and she drank a lot. And so, the situation turned out to be much simpler than it first seemed. That's it for this episode. There are even more One Punch Man specials on the way. We'll be uploading them soon, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated. See you next time.